I'm an innovation consultant here at Bright Idea. My colleague Dan, we're going to be covering some techniques from design thinking, but to try to do that in an hour is, we would admit, kind of a ridiculously impossible task. We both have backgrounds in design research, both as practitioners and trainers, as well as the rest of design thinking. So feel free to talk to us afterwards, grab our cards, whatever, after, if you want to learn a bit more. But today there's going to be a creative session. So we went around the room so you'd hear the companies, because you're not going to listen to us talk very long. We're going to have sticky notes. We're going to be leading you through a whole bunch of exercises. We're going to be walking around. I've got happy feet because it's the end of the session. And so why are we doing this, right? We believe that applying techniques from design thinking to better frame challenge statements is a gap. It's something we can get a lot better at, right? It's just something that if you ask the right question, you will get better ideas. You'll get on target ideas. And if we can make those customer centric statements, even better, right? But you've been hearing about corporate innovation for what, 2 straight days? And we think this is so important, asking the right question. We're kind of afraid that you're not going to remember once you leave here that this is important, that your muscle memory is going to be really lax. So we thought, how can we come up with a way that you'll remember this all the time and come back and say, did I ask the right question? In order to do that, we're going to leave corporate innovation, and we're going to go to a little bit different example. So who can tell me who this is? Just shout it out. This is not a raising your hands. Okay, Frankenstein. Great. And how long? I mean, you guys probably, as long as you can remember, you've known about Frankenstein, right? Okay. How about this guy? Dracula. And Dracula is a what? Vampire. Very good. So no surprises there. But would it surprise you if I told you that both of these characters were written by guests at the same dinner party, the same week? True story. Would it surprise you if I told you that both stories are really the result of a crowdsourcing challenge? So I have your attention now. Hey. I swear this is a true story. So in order to really explain this to you, we have to take you back in time to the summer 1816. They actually called it the year without a summer in Europe. There was a volcanic explosion, and it produced incredibly coldest on record and wettest on record summers. And so near the shores of Lake Geneva, the famous poet and politician Lord Byron was staying with his physician, John William Polidori, in a rented villa. And he had some famous guests, Percy Shelley, and then Mary Shelley, who had become famous, were at their house for many dinners, and they had cabin fever because it was raining and freezing cold. So one night, Lord Byron was reading German ghost stories, and he had this idea. He challenged his crowd, these people, to go home and write their best short ghost story. And just a few days later, for the first time, Frankenstein and the vampire were read aloud for the first time. So it's a true story. We don't tell you this because innovation is supposed to be scary. What we want you to remember is that if Lord Byron had asked them to go home and write the best short love story, they're great authors, they would have done it, but the world would definitely not have Frankenstein or Dracula. So keep that in mind. And it's a great example, right? It's something that you'll remember. Asking the right question will get you better answers. And if you're an innovation program manager, you do this all the time. So the techniques from design thinking, customer-centric innovation, of course they apply no matter where you are in your innovation journey. But if you are using BI programs, if you're running solve challenges, optimize challenges, pitch events, if you are framing up a hackathon, the way you ask the question, what you ask your crowd to focus on is going to determine what types of solutions you get. So the more time you can put in to framing better questions, making sure they're more customer-centric, the better results you're going to get. And so what we're going to be doing today, it's going to be a lot of tactile, sticky notes. We're going to be taking you through ways that you can actually apply these techniques and do it, and hopefully take it home to your companies.
So to get started, we'll do a very quick context setting of where we are in the overall design thinking process. You can take semesters worth of classes on design thinking. We're going to zoom in on the upfront discovery, insights, mostly design research, okay? And we'll step you through that through the categories of observations, how do you observe the world around you, assembling those into themes, translating a theme into an insight. These are two different things. And then the insights give us enough human description of our actual customer to be able to create a relevant innovation challenge statement. Something that's specific enough, that's the right question to solve for.
Makes
Scary
sense?
story instead of the love story.
Right.
Great.
So just really briefly, why are we focused on this? Well, design thinking is getting more popular. So if you look at this Google Trend readout, tried and true methods like lean startup, crowdsourcing that we know and love, they remain tremendously popular, right? They're just like bedrocks. But as you can see, design thinking popularity in the search terms are on the rise, right? This is just from Google Trends. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You could probably overlay a focus on customer-centric innovation, and it would follow this trend. It also might be because there's some evidence that it does work. So this is a DMI, Design Management Institute study that looked about a decade and showed that what they would qualify as design-centric companies, think Coca-Cola, Apple, Google, the list is on their website, outperform the S&P 500 by 228%. Now, this is one study. Doesn't mean that if you do this, you will definitely succeed, but there is some evidence that it does work. And if you really get into this, there's literally hundreds of proprietary design thinking, human-centered design processes. The one that made it famous was IDEO and Stanford D School. They've got a 5-step process. But really what you need to think about here is there's this work upstream from ideation, right? And if you think about classic innovation management apps, particularly 10 years ago, they started here, right? And so what we want to do is we're not going to be talking about prototyping and testing and that's all part of design thinking today. We're going to be focusing all our efforts on the empathize and define stage, right? And that journey that Dan just walked you through. Questions? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who's going to put up a statement that probably looks like a lot of challenge statements that you see every day, and we would argue is not the way we should do it.
Okay. And if we flash back for 1 second back to the process slide, again, as Steve said, we can't cover the entire breadth of design thinking. We're going to focus on getting it right in the beginning. And we're also going to zero in for the purposes of practice here on observing from a field video. We're going to show you a video from the field. This is something that Steve and I have done in our research projects in the past. You go in, you observe a customer. You take a video so you can analyze afterward, okay? There are many other methods that I'm sure you've heard about in design research. You can do it in-person immersion. You can, if you have a customer dining at your restaurant, you can go eat with them to experience what that experience is like. There's a drawback. You might pollute that environment, right? You might accidentally change their behavior. So you can observe them from afar, but you might not experience it like they do. So you could record it and watch that video later with your colleagues who think differently than you think, and each of you might have different observations about it. That's the method we're going to use today, but no matter the observation method that you use, somehow you will be observing something, as we're going to walk you through. Somehow you're going to have to collect that into a theme, translate it into an insight to create a problem statement. Okay? So this is transferable to any tool in the design thinking and design research set. So, to show an anti-example of a challenge statement, this is pretty broad. If I'm in a restaurant, how can I be more like a Michelin star restaurant? Do you agree that's a pretty broad question?
How many of you might have done statements like this before? I have. Okay.
I think a lot of us were like mentally raising our hands, but not physically, right? Okay. Okay. So if we break it down, there's a certain customer flow. And this is my perspective. You might have a different perspective from your dining experience. But I thought, okay, usually I go out, I try to search for a restaurant, I prepare to go out. I get dressed, I arrive at that restaurant, then I order, I'm finally eating. That's one step. I'm paying the bill, which is usually a pain. I leave the restaurant, and then I have impressions afterward, and I share it with my friends. Right, so that's a pretty broad question here, because it breaks down into 8 different steps, and probably more if we thought about it, right? Many more steps. There's so many different moments that we can zoom into and problem solve. Where do we begin? So, again, about to dive into observations, and we'll show you themes, insights, challenge statement. So, with observations, with this video we're about to show, You each are going to watch it and be completely overloaded with things. You can listen to what the people say. By the way, this will be in a restaurant, okay? We're thinking that we're a aspiring Michelin star restaurant, okay? You can listen to what they're going to say. You can watch what they're doing. You can watch what people behind them are doing. You can look at the setting and the trappings of the environment. You could think about what's not there or what they don't say. Try not to think about why. Just look at what is happening. Like you are the old-time radio announcer for a baseball game. You're telling everyone what's happening on that baseball diamond. You're not the post-game analyzer, right? So take assessment and bias out of it for a second and just describe what's happening.
You get to be the analyzer soon, but just not now.
Yeah, just hold for a moment. And we fully expect you to be overloaded. The video is going to fly by quickly. So just observe what they're doing and how they're doing it. Look at minute details. Put a different observation on each yellow sticky note. By the end of this 5-minute video, your desktop will be filled with observations, right? So one sticky note might say, they hung up their coats. The next sticky note might say, they ordered food and were excited, right? Okay. Just the yellow sticky notes. Hold off on the colored sticky notes. And I think we covered it. Great. So, any questions before we dive in? Observations on the restaurant dining experience as if we work for the restaurant who's aspiring to be a Michelin star company. Right now, we don't know what question we want to ask, right? So by doing these observations, they will be all over the board. Once we start to do the themes, we'll start to constrain what our focus is, right? This is going to be super broad, okay? Do it right here.
Bonsoir, ils viennent manger ici, ils ont réservé.
À l'avant-cascade?
Oui.
Allez jusque là-bas.
Ah, je dois aller jusque là-bas.
We just got to the restaurant. It's way outside of Paris. It is very, very nice. Are you ready to go in?
Yes. How's the Asian guy smoking in the background?
Bonsoir.
Yes, of course. We should have a reservation.
Canada.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't tell your driver is a little bit, was a little bit crazy.
Hands down, one of the nicest places I have ever seen in my whole life. Almost something out of an old film, would you say?
Did you enjoy the champagne?
Very good. Yeah.
Say my friends. Oh, it's a secret.
Thank you so much. So we had this bread, here, show the bread, and he said he was out of this bread, and then he just comes back, he's like, oh, it's a secret.
Yes, get that lobster hand. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Look at how perfectly decrustationized that is.
I've never had that, it just fell apart. Did you see that?
Yeah, it just fell apart.
After, you have a comté. Traditional cheese French, cow cheese. This one, it's
crumble down, sherbet of lime, sherbet of lemon, and candied zest to accommodate. And I had a toffee perfume with vanilla.
Smell the sauce that he has poured on. Do you smell that? Oh my god. We're still at the restaurant, and apparently there's an EDM music concert happening right over there. Well, Jessica's Instagramming this. She's actually been taking pictures of every single meal we've had in France to kind of compile one big just... What do you want to do with all the pictures?
I don't know, I figure you can go to go.
Yeah, like, I'll do a blog post with all the food that we've had in France.
Well,
but
all Eric's food, because some of my food is just with salads, and that's not really that exciting.
yeah, that's true. a lot of my food though. The presentation. I mean, you've seen in the videos, but there's a concert going on right now, like a really loud, like EDM music, crazy festival. And Jessica was saying this is it's a what? A 1 Michelin star. So apparently this restaurant is it's a very amazing restaurant. Normally it's packed. Right now, it's pretty much empty.
A Michelin star restaurant, it's a Michelin star restaurant, it's never really empty. And the only reason I think that we were able to get reservations through the tourism board is because of this festival. At the same time, it's a godsend because we were actually able to come here. Like, who knows if we would have been able to come here.
Yeah, and you know what? This was so unexpected because, like I said earlier, we have an itinerary of things to do while we're in France through the tourism board, but we had no clue that this was on the itinerary. This is above and beyond anything that we've ever even experienced. Like, this is... What do you have to say about this?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Everything was good?
Excellent.
Yes?
Amazing.
Perfect.
We loved it.
I don't really think it hit me what Michelin star tasted like.
The food in Paris so far, just the layers, and not chefs are artists. The chefs in Paris are chef artists.
It's very interesting too because you go to somewhere like New York, it's in and out, in and out, in and out as fast as they can to get as many people as they can to make as much money as they can. And a lot of times, you have one chef who's an artist and who comes up with this stuff, but then it's other people executing that and they don't have that same passion. Whereas here, everybody from the guy who scrapes the crumbs off of your table to the person cooking your meals and plating your meals is passionate about doing their job, and it's amazing to be able to have an experience like that.
It's crazy how, like last night we went from drinking cheap beers at the Seine to tonight doing something like this.
Though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, Paris has so much to offer. You know what I mean?
It does.
It does. But we're gonna get some sleep because tomorrow we're up early. Tomorrow is Jessica's day. On the itinerary, it literally says Jessica's day.
Well, I asked for a shopping day because I've been saving up to make some very emotional purchases. You'll see tomorrow. I'll explain it more tomorrow because it's something that's sort of been... well, I will explain tomorrow. I'm going to be very emotional tomorrow though. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and comment down below what the best meal that you've ever had is.
So until tomorrow, this is the happiest that we remember to smile more, worry less, and live your passion.
No judging the people.
That's for another.
That's
workshop.
for next Synthesize. We'll go through Jessica's day. Gonna stop it right.
I'm producing a new show on NBC called
We get rid of it.
Got it.
So what did you guys observe? Anybody want to shout out some observations? No order, just shout them.
A lot of chandeliers. Yeah. Glass, lots of glass.
Okay. White, elegant, okay.
Presentation. Wine, water, intimate. Attention to detail.
Okay.
Excellent service. They got lucky. Okay, so shout out a few more feelings and reactions that you heard. Surprise, delight, happy. Best meal ever, amazing food. Empty restaurant, expectation.
Okay.
Great. And to emphasize, this is one video. If your chosen technique is videos, try out 3 or 5 of them, right? This is a sample set of 2 people. And maybe mix in with a few other techniques. Do an immersion yourself. Go eat at a few of these restaurants yourself to try it out, to filter out what your assumptions were, and also to experience what they might have experienced.
And we would obviously not base innovation decisions on one 60-second video, but when you start to take these observations together, I always like to separate them into what are they doing, thinking and feeling, because that helps you do experience mapping or journey mapping later. So that's why you said, what about the feelings and emotions? And I also, so I went through this. I actually watched a couple more videos, and one of the things I found was the two that I zeroed in on were there's no rush, because they were talking about how being in New York, which also has very fine cuisine, they're trying to get you out all the time. But the one that really stuck out to me as a solo business traveler is I never see any place for a solo diner, right? You don't want to sit by yourself at this nice white linen table and be judged, right? So I would skip past it even if I like that, right? So that was an example of what I didn't see, right? And so based on that, we'll go into theming next, where we talk about how you can actually take these observations and start to clutch them around.
Great. So just quick check-in. Here's our journey. These are the observations. About to theme it. Next is insight, interpreting it into human feelings, and then finally challenge statement. So to theme your sticky note observations, this tends to be a very messy and iterative part of the process. In your experiences, you might have done this on a whiteboard where you can arrange, rearrange, take yarn and make circles as if you're a conspiracy theorist and you're connecting everything in the world, and then you realize half the connections don't make sense and you redraw it. We're going to do it in 5 minutes, so clearly not a lot of iteration here, but we do want to step you through observation to theme, to insight, to challenge statement. So as you do this, here's how we're going to quickly theme for the purposes of this exercise. Find a table partner and who's ever next to you, and assemble your sticky notes in clusters that are similar. After you do that, and 1 second. What? 1 second. I got to use it. So after you have clusters, then take your next color, the dark blue, and label 2 clusters. Just 2 clusters. Label them with 3 to 5 words that describe 2 of your clusters. So first cluster.
All right, good job, man.
But I have to facilitate. They didn't quite get that.
What's that?
We have to facilitate. They
I'm
didn't
gonna
quite understand that.
Yeah. So you got it. We're gonna eventually do 2 blue clusters.
18. Okay, wonderful. So high energy, and I think you all picked up on the redirection we were giving was once we label some of these themes, then we started to give more description. So the first level theme was service. Second level description is service was delightful, or maybe unexpectedly delightful service. Okay, and then it's fine if you have sub themes. So it could have been service theme, unexpectedly delightful service, and
Not rushing you through.
and service not being rushed. Those are two sub themes of service. Okay. So
what did you guys capture? Anybody want to shout out some themes? Okay. 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 Anybody else? What's that?
emotional experience.
Right. Okay.
Couple
And
more.
Yeah, a couple more. I think Paris. yeah?
Meticulous presentation.
Things to do in Paris.
Things to do in Paris.
So a few things that jumped out at me. I'll show you some themes, having watched a few of these, right? And you'll see that the solo diner, fine dining, doesn't attract solo diners. I've carried that through, but there's some other ones that are in here. In listening to that, sometimes it's good to go back a few times and watch it. So I don't know if you noticed the guy, if you could get past his annoying personality, but he was like, he didn't say this is like the most incredible restaurant I've ever been to. He said this is the most incredible place I've ever been, right? Or something along those lines. It wasn't even about the restaurant to some degree, right? So that could be the emotional experiences that come through. So in this case, you can see a few of them, but you see the theme carrying through here. I'm at that next level descriptor that Dan talked about, not just number of diners. What may have come, and I think if I'm thinking back to my thought process, I started with decor and seating, and then noticed, wait, there's no single solo seating. It's just tables everywhere because it's all about the linen, right?
Great. So as we progress forward, again, doing themes should be iterative, and we might discover we don't know enough about the service. Let's say you're having trouble really refining that service theme description. Maybe you go out and do more studies, right? Do another video, do another focus group, do another immersion. So it will be iterative.
And Dan, one thing I would say is a lot of times the themes, they tell you, okay, you know what? I don't know why they're saying this, so I'm going to go undercover. I'm going to go do 5 Michelin star restaurant visits, right? Because I want to understand it better myself. That's just another technique.
Awesome. So now insights. What's the difference between theme and insight? The theme helps us understand what we just saw, helps us get on the same page as our teammates, okay? Maybe you are from a marketing background and you have a teammate who's an engineer and one who's from human resources. Super valuable. Now start speaking the same language in terms of what did we just see and create some themes based on your very different views of the world. So now we understand what we saw and we begin to empathize with those people. An insight is translating that into a more human description of what we saw, okay? Here's a formula. In the voice of the customer, the diner, I perform a certain action because of a reason. However, there's a remaining tension, right? You can kind of see where this is going. After this, we'll do the problem statement to solve that tension. Not yet, okay? So actually flip to the example. So to help you out, because that's a little complex. Example, I action. I love fine dining, or I go out, I eat at fine dining restaurants because I appreciate world-class cuisine and presentation. We're trying to get in their head, okay? However, when I'm eating alone so much, I end up at bars because I feel self-conscious eating alone in a Michelin star restaurant, right?
And has nothing to do with bourbon or liking drinks. It's just
yeah. Keep telling yourself. Okay. So now we're really trying to get into the head of why do they do something and what issue remains to be solved. Okay. It might involve a little bit of speculation right here since we don't have time to go back to the field and do more iterative study. Okay. So it's fine if you need to speculate for this study.
And before we jump into it, just wanted to point out a customer that you saw yesterday. One of their R&D heads, I heard him once say it. The quote was either, Insights are the keys to the kingdom or the crown jewels of the company, and they guard it almost more than intellectual property. Because as a CPG company, a lot of the products and the classes are the same. And they said if we don't understand the true motivations and true latent needs of our customers better than the competition, if we can't see them through that lens, we can't win. So a lot of companies, how many people here actually, we should ask this, use insights or do insight statements? 2, 3. But you probably have customer insights groups or consumer market knowledge groups that you're kind of like, they do insights, right? Maybe?
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, cool. So our point is everybody should understand their customer, and insights are something that every innovation program needs to really be focused on.
Great. So instructions here, speak in the voice of the customer, first person, as if you're that man or that woman, okay? And describe some sort of feeling, okay? Don't generalize. Don't think about most people who eat at Michelin star restaurants. Think about this person you saw, okay? And then, and to be able to focus and get through in 5 minutes, just select 2 of your dark blue sticky notes. Just take 2 of your themes and translate them each into an insight, okay? I think if we had a few hours, we might do insights for all of these and then iterate and then iterate and then down select and then choose 3 of them, iterate again, and finally choose 1. This is the quick version. Okay, so everybody clear? With your partners, choose 2 dark blue stickies, translate them.
Yeah, they've got 2, so they'll do 2. Although these guys overperform with 4.
Okay.
Just a different color, whichever one you haven't used.
Color.
Sorry, I'm colorblind, so
Yeah, use your
I hate these
color.
exercises. If you can hear me, clap once. All right, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, that was enough. Okay, so in terms of insights readouts, anybody want to share them? I think maybe we'll try to get one from everybody if you can do it fast. You don't have to. Okay, so there's a price tension there.
I enjoy fine dining because it's an experience to participate and also a destination. However, there are none in my vicinity.
Okay, so it's an accessibility, and sorry, I forgot about the mics. We're gonna give you guys mics now for the recording.
I enjoyed the restaurant due to the over-the-top luxurious experience and attention to detail. However, the background music was distracting from this experience.
Okay, so you focused on, despite all the positive ambiance, that's almost like a location of the venue hall, the concert hall. Okay.
I was happy that we were able to get reservations at this Michelin star restaurant because of the concert next door. However, this wouldn't have happened if the concert was not going on.
Okay, so that's also location-based tension.
I enjoy the emotional experience of fine dining because of the intimate experience. However, I'm rarely able to do so due to the exclusivity.
Okay.
I love the food because it was artistic and delicious. However, my perceptions were different because it was a Michelin restaurant.
Oh, okay. So you're saying I was so met expectations, but your expectations were high. Okay.
I like fine dining because I enjoy authentic human interactions. However, I feel like it was too much the center of attention because it was alone in the restaurant.
Okay.
I love dining in Michelin star restaurants because of the intimate setting. However, back home in Michelin restaurants, I often feel rushed.
Okay. The tension is they want me out of there.
I enjoy expensive wine because I can't normally afford it. However, I'm embarrassed to ask why it is good.
Okay. So what's interesting there, right, is that it's an I don't belong kind of, like I'm an imposter in the restaurant, right? How do I make you feel more comfortable? Okay.
So I eat at this restaurant because I want a fancy environment. However, I still look fondly on the beers at the sign.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate fine things in life because it makes me feel good. However, it can be a challenge to get reservations at the establishments I desire.
Okay. And one more.
I love that they presented one course at a time because they presented each in detail. However, it may draw down my patience to spend 3 hours at dinner.
Okay. And so you're seeing a couple things there, right? There's probably different personas, somebody who doesn't want to spend all this time on pomp and circumstance and someone who is rushed. Yep.
When we have a few days to do this, we might then take all of those, put them on the wall, cluster them by what's similar,
right?
Rejigger them a little bit, rewrite them, drill down, do more research to confirm. Okay? That's the iteration.
And hopefully this sort of tension that we're saying, I kept saying by tension, that's not the only way to look at it, but it's making you think about where are these potential pain points. And that really sets us up for, and you can see some of the insights that I captured, and one of them is the solo, right? Where is it here? Anyway, it's the following that solo thread through that there's a single diner.
Great. So finally, I think you get where we're going. We're going to write a challenge statement, and we're like 95% of the way there, right? How can we solve that fundamental issue that you teased up? So in a second, just take one of your insights, because we don't have time to do everything. Take one insight and translate it into a problem statement with this formula. It's barely a formula. You write, how might we? And then you describe some problem you're going to address. That's what you'll plug into a bread idea challenge, right? So here are the instructions. Turn that human insight into some opportunity. Remember, the insight ends with a negative. However, something negative. Now we're turning it into a potential positive. How might we problem solve that issue, right? And try not to specify a solution, okay? So for the people who said, but I don't want to spend 3 hours eating, right? So don't say, how might we deliver the food in 10 minutes? All right, that's prescribing a solution.
And if you use the word by, like by doing something, you're also describing, and we see that more often than we probably like.
So let me drill down. Don't say, how might we deliver the food with 10 people?
Right, or by speeding up the experience and getting them out of the restaurant or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So take
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I mean, you guys do this all the time with BI programs, right? Like you write how might we statements. We can do it. Let's do it.
On your pink sticky note. Okay.
So, all right, great. You guys probably, there was a little bit of a struggle. Just to give one example, we heard multiple insights. One person wanted to not be, staying there for 5 hours. We heard other people saying, I'm not rushed. There was a little struggle there. Well, how do we do a statement around that? So one of the ones that we talked about was how might we be able to serve a Michelin star experience in an airport? Because you're always rushed, but you don't want to feel rushed, right? So you're not trying to get any prescription into the solution, right? So you can see in the one that I did, how might we create a fine dining experience for the solo guest? That was the rough one. And then what do? You can spin up an optimized challenge, right? And so we've written a challenge brief, and we made it a little bit sexier than that quote on the sticky note, bringing a Michelin star experience to solo diners, putting some descriptions in there. We'd probably have tabs that explain the problem, maybe even link to some videos.
So the first statement that I read in the beginning was, how can we be more like a Michelin star restaurant? And then what Steve wrote after doing observation and themes and insights was, how might we bring the Michelin star experience to solo diners to capture blah, blah, blah. Okay, so more descriptive, more fine-tuned.
Right, and then an idea comes in. You have no idea. So mine was bringing Michelin star to the bar, right? And that's one idea that can get evaluated, and hopefully you get hundreds of ideas that you can then move through the pipeline. But now we know you didn't ask me for everything. You asked me about the solo diner. And all my ideas, I'll get dozens and dozens or hundreds of ideas around that one problem. So, I'm sorry, question? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's focused and it's also targeted on what we know is a pain point from our customers, right? We're solving for attention and we're trying to use the power of crowdsourcing to go out and do that, right? The power of the crowd. And so just circling back, as I said, you guys do this all the time. My sense is many of you are using Optimize app, the Solve app, right? You're using BI programs. This can make you much more effective. If you are looking to learn more about how do you manage insights, there are people who actually crowdsource insights and evaluate those. So the same way you can take an idea and figure out whether it's something that should be approved or funded, you can do the same thing with potential insights. And so if you want to learn more about, has anybody here used Understand? Yeah? Okay, not many people. So if you want, the rocket scientists are still out there. They can walk you through the app. We also have handouts at your table that you can take. So whether you're trying to crowdsource insights, crowdsource research and findings like we did today, or if you're trying to do an insight library, insight nursery, right, where everybody in the company can see the approved insights to help them with their ideation and help them with their innovation efforts, definitely worth checking out. Remember, it works, right? There's some empirical evidence that this does work. It's hard. Somebody said this is hard. This is like a struggle, and we only just spent an hour on it. Imagine spending weeks. But there's a payoff, right? There's a reason this does work. So please, thank you guys for coming. Rate the session. Hopefully you had fun.